Nice. Okay. Yeah. Just as a general kind of rundown, I will give a little bit of guidance. But up to you if you want to follow it. If you already have your own practice, just follow that and do that. So, but I'll be giving a little bit of guidance throughout. So with that, we'll get started then. Allow yourself to settle in. Drop into the body and notice it. Make its small adjustments. As you settle into your seat. Notice how it does this automatically. Not really consciously deciding to shuffle or move or keep your balance. It's just something the body is doing on its own accord. Just allow it to settle into its most comfortable and easy position. You can notice these other impersonal processes. Sounds that come and go. You're not really choosing to hear them or not hear them. Your breath coming in and out. Your heartbeat. The light contacting your eyes. This whole sphere of impersonal processes just happening. Without you there doing anything. Just allow this whole impersonal series of processes in your experience to come and go and be as they are. You can just be still in the middle of them. elements of your experience are impersonal. They just arise of their own accord. The thoughts that pop into your mind, are you really controlling them? Or do they just appear and disappear according to their own nature? Feelings or the moods that you have. They're just the same as all these other different bodily sensory processes. That come about of their own accord. Can you just step back and watch them? Like if you were sitting on a riverbank. Watching the flow of the stream. You're not controlling anything in the stream, you just watch this natural, impersonal process. watch the body functioning as a impersonal process. Likewise, the sounds. You can even step back, notice the thoughts, the moods and emotions is something that just again follows this impersonal process. You can stand back and take a vantage point and watch. Be aware. But is this vantage point, this awareness, is this also just an impersonal process? You don't control yourself being aware or not. It's just something that's there. Where is the one that owns this awareness? Even that which is aware. It's just an impersonal process. There's no owner. You're not controlling it. It just is.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thanks.
Just going to give a quick overview of this week's program. So tomorrow at 7:30 till 9, there's the Tuesday night meditation, led by a lay teacher. Sorry. And this Friday at 7 is the it's already week 3 of the introduction to Buddhist thoughts and practice by Ajahn Sādaro himself. And then this Saturday there is the monthly day meditation retreats, also led by Ajahn, starting at 8:30. Sunday Dhamma talk is at 9:30, as always, led by Ajahn Kunpan. And then next Monday night meditation is also led by Ajahn Kunpan. That's it.
Perfect.
Are there any questions?
Ajahn, is it important for our, when we are sitting for meditation like this, to keep one fixed meditation object, or is it kind of okay to have open awareness wherever the awareness goes?
Yeah, so obviously it depends on the motivation behind the session. You know, you might have the motivation of the session of, no, I'm just going to try to develop samadhi this session. So obviously you would be, you know, just trying to focus on one thing throughout that whole session. But yeah, you might have the motivation to, well, no, actually I want to maybe develop more of this, basically more of this quality of open awareness. So I might work at, trying to do that and trying to do that well. It's really, there's no hard and fast rules about these things. The only thing that you kind of don't want to be doing is jumping around between different things. So there's nothing wrong with, say, for example, if you sit meditation and go, okay, well, maybe for let's say the first half an hour, I'm going to do focused attention. Then I'm going to try to maybe drop back and do some more, opening practices. Then I might end the meditation with something like loving kindness meditation. There's nothing wrong with setting the mind up like that. But, what you don't want to be doing too much is going, okay, this isn't working, I'm going to jump to this. This isn't working, I'm going to jump to this. So, yeah, I think it's a lot to do with the intention. The one thing, the last thing I'd say about it, I'm a little bit skeptical of open awareness with people that don't have samadhi. That like open awareness, open monitoring is becoming a very popular thing. And I basically just don't think people can actually do it that well if they don't have samadhi. They just think they're being open and aware, but they're just proliferating, basically. So I'd be kind of careful with open awareness and open monitoring practices if you don't have this kind of like stability that can like sit there and be open and aware of everything and not move with these things. If you can do that, then it's fine. But it's I think just generally I'm just sort of like noticing a trend in like contemporary meditation circles. People jump to open awareness too quickly, and it's like they just drift. So it's I think if you have that kind of at least some stability, and then you try to have some stability, and then you can sort of open out a bit. So that's good. But then if you start to drift and move around, it's like go back to something where you like a little bit more focused kind of thing. So yeah, that's just the kind of thoughts I have on a Monday night. So.
Any other question? Go on online. I lost my temper during a meeting in the office.
Yep.
How do I ensure I don't repeat the same?
I don't know. I lose my temper all the time. if I'm in some sort of meeting, I lose my temper a lot. I was like, when is this gonna end? When are these people gonna be quiet? Yes. So I think it's normal to lose your temper in meetings, but obviously, yeah, there is that element if you are really actually like, if you're obviously snapping at people, if you're reacting in a very hostile way, that's something we kind of want to mitigate. So I think, like the first thing is like, well, if you did like really, and I don't know exactly what you did, obviously, but if you did like kind of like lose your temper, you snap at someone, it's like, apologize. Own up to it. It's like, and if you think it's the wrong thing and you said the wrong thing, then yeah, just, apologize to the persons or people that you maybe snapped at, or at least kind of explain, try to explain the situation a little bit more. And then look, the bottom line is this, you just like resolve to do better, resolve to do better next time. And, I think we can use these kind of these things as an exercise in being able to communicate effectively if something is annoying you, and learning how to actually communicate that you don't like something it's a really, really important skill to have. And look, sometimes we just get it wrong and we snap at people, and we're incredibly bored at 55 minutes into a Zoom meeting, and it's like somebody wants to make another point, and you're like, no, let's just stop now because it's been going on too long. And maybe we don't use skillful speech, so it's just a matter of one, like owning up to it and apologizing if you need to. And two, just getting better at being able to be, firm with your opinion, but not have a kind of hostility or aggression or something like that behind it. And look, it just takes time. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. Like try not to beat yourself up too much. I think most of the time we like do these things and we end up thinking about it a lot, but you go and ask the person the next day, like, well, I forgot about it. I don't even know. I didn't even realize you did that. So, but yeah, I think that's probably the most pragmatic way to deal with it.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hey, I think this is a bit of a double barrel question.
Yeah.
So the first part is, well, that's weird, I can hear myself.
Yeah, you get used to it after a while.
The first part is, when sitting in meditation, the thoughts that you have initially, is that just consciousness, or I think it's referred to as heart-mind? And then secondly, that you're trying to quiet those, or silence those, so that the Buddha nature, or that quiet place, occurs. End of question.
Yeah. Okay. So it is a bit of a double barrel question kind of thing, but so it really depends what you mean by consciousness there as well. Now, if you mean consciousness as this element, I am having an experience right now. I am conscious. If I was unconscious, I'd be like, I wouldn't be experiencing anything right now. So if we just sort of mean conscious in that kind of way, as this kind of basic, fundamental, fundamental principle of that one is having an experience, then if we're taking that as a given to start with, then maybe like the thoughts and the things that we have are a kind of what you call like an object of consciousness. It's something that arises in consciousness. Like right now, I see my hand, and my hand like arises in consciousness. And so that is an object in consciousness. But likewise, thoughts that arise, thoughts, language, images in the mind, connected, unconnected thoughts. These are kind of like objects that arise within consciousness. And so, yeah, part of one's aim, motivation in meditation is to some extent either to, just to be able to step back and observe them come and go. And if you can actually really step back and observe them come and go, they will become like quieter. They won't become as like salient within your awareness. Or like we were asking before, it's like you maybe you focus on an object, and these things, because you're just focusing on one object, these things are they're starting to like drop away. And so you're becoming more and more, you could say, you're more and more absorbed in something. And so it's to the point when these things, as you said, like quiet down, drop away, one can have a little bit more of this experience where you could say it's something more like a fundamental experience of consciousness, where it's not as impeded by objects, thoughts, sounds, hands appearing, all these kinds of things. It can become quiet and still and sort of detached back from things. And that's where, if one can like sit in that for periods of time, where this is where you'll get periods of deep calm, maybe like luminosity, maybe like your ultimate stillness kind of thing. And that's what some people would call like a Buddha mind or something like that. So yeah, we are attempting to do that in some kind of way, but the way that different people will get there through different techniques is, it's hard to say. So it's not to say that you do this one technique and you'll get there, or you do another technique and you'll definitely get there. It's really just something of like, well, once you find the right kind of meditation technique that will, sort of like still the mind, and you can sort of step back a little bit and just allow things to settle down. You just keep doing that, and eventually that thing will arise. That kind of state will arise. And one of the like, most salient observations when that thing arises is, oh, hang on, this thing was here all the time. It was it's always there. It's always there. I just have to notice it, or things just have to be still, and it comes into being. It's there right now, but we've got so many other objects that are kind of clouding it. So it's something that is, and this is why it's called like Bodhi or Buddha mind. It's like it's ever present. It's ever present. It's awakened. It's alert. But it's usually covered over with things. So it's like, once one can like practice to be able to quiet that or step back in that kind of way, and you get like quite skilled in it, it's really easy to switch back in and out of it, because it's like, well, it's something that's already there, and something that's already there already. I just have to find out how to access it. So takes a bit of time to do that, but yeah, it's like, it is definitely something doable, and it is one of those things of like, once you work it out, it's like, oh, okay, I can just do that. So yeah, but it might take a little while to get to the point where you can actually do that. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. I guess the consciousness I was sort of thinking about was the 5 aggregates I was reading about.
Okay, yeah.
From that perspective, in that, I think, correct me obviously if I'm wrong, but that thoughts are not us.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That initially, in sitting in meditation, those thoughts, at least for me, are everywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, nice. That's a nice distinction. So the 5 aggregates, just for anybody that doesn't know, from a Buddhist perspective, basically we see a human existence of basically made up of 5 different components. You have the body, you have feelings, you have like memories and perceptions. Then you have mental activities, thoughts and things like that. Then you have consciousness of those things happening. So you have consciousness that you can hear sounds, you can see sights. So the Buddhists will basically say, okay, the 5 aggregates, that basically just makes up who we are. They wouldn't really necessarily call it consciousness as such, but it's just like these are the things that aggregate together, that bind together. And essentially what it is like all these things occur. So thought is one of those. So like mental activity, or what we call sankhara, that is thought. So it's just like, so thought is one part of the aggregates. But the reason you say it feels like everything is because essentially like we're identifying with this. Thoughts are arising, and thoughts are arising for me. There's a pain in my lower back, and it's my pain in my lower back that's in my body. I remember pains in my lower back, and I have perceptions of pains in my lower back, and it all basically all becomes me. So the reason it sort of, you could say, hijacks and overtakes consciousness is because we're identifying with it. And this is a little bit more my interpretation now, as opposed to like specific Buddhist interpretation. I think like the fundamental problem that that we all kind of face is that what we end up doing is identifying with a unique conscious experience. Like, so for me, I have a unique conscious experience. It's not yours. I can't pass it on to you. I can never have your conscious experience. I can never have the experience of being a bat or something like that. If I have the experience of being a bat, then I actually become the bat. That's not me. So I have my own unique conscious experience, and I think what we tend to do is we identify with that, because this is the locus, the storehouse, the ground of experience. And because this is occurring for us, we identify with it. So it's something, for me, I think that's like the kind of like the fundamental problem. Obviously there is clinging to the aggregates, again, those like objects in consciousness, feelings, thoughts, memories, the sense impingements, all those kinds of things. I think that's a problem within itself, that we identify with those things. But then I think it's an even deeper problem that we actually identify with conscious experience itself. This sense of having a unique conscious experience. Once we identify with that, I think that's like one of our root fundamental problems. And it's quite normal that we do that, because, if it's not happening to me, who's it happening to? So I think it's quite normal that we do that. But for me, I actually think that that's the kind of like fundamental problem. And if we can even just get sort of moments of not identifying with that, it's like that's a kind of moment of release. And that's when we go, oh, hang on, there's something else here. So yeah, it's again. So the reason it feels like everything becomes this thing, because we're identifying with it. We're identifying with the thoughts. We're identifying with the body. We're identifying with our memories, that I'm perceiving something. And again, that I'm also just identifying that I am the one that's having this experience. I feel deep inside that it's me that's having this experience. We're just identifying with it all, so it overtakes us. But if we can sort of not identify with it and just we just sort of like see it as a process, then it actually sort of like all the magician's tricks get you sort of like see behind the curtain. It's like oh okay, yeah, that's just all it is. So yeah, it's something that we can work towards, but it's also pretty normal that we get overtaken by it, because it's just a kind of natural thing to do. Hopefully that makes sense.
Kind of following on from that concept of not identifying with thoughts, there are times that I find myself ruminating, and particularly I'm prone to it a bit more in the winter time when there's chemicals that I think at play as well. And I wonder, in terms of the the word that comes to mind is the efficiency of dealing with that. I find myself sometimes just breathing and watching that, because the ruminations, it tends to be almost like it's a very intense process.
Yep.
And I wonder if it's better to sit with it and watch it, or whether sometimes, because I know that some Buddhist approaches are not about suppressing it, but actually noticing and then substituting a more positive thing.
Yep.
So I'm just, I guess, asking about some effective ways that
Yep.
are not about pushing it down, but also about dealing with it in a healthy way.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's obviously like rumination is a very like it's a common thing that a lot of people have. Some people get it more severely than others. Some people just get like basic kind of rumination. But I think and the first thing to notice about it is like rumination, and like you sort of noticed, it's like, well, it has causes. It has causes. It's causally conditioned. So we ruminate because of something. Something is happening. Either it's externally or it's internal. There is a kind of it's conditioned. Rumination is conditioned in some way. So something being conditioned also means it's like, well, we don't have like ultimate control over the thing either. So there's obviously, so now like, well, how do you practically deal with something like that? Well, yeah, there's so many different approaches. So what do you usually find that works for you?
I find that it's a combination. I've learned to just say to myself, okay, it's a bit like having a cold. You kind of like have to weather it,
Yep.
to use a pun.
Yeah.
And not kind of think, oh, this is me and something's wrong with me, but actually just look at it as something, as you say, has been triggered by a combination of perhaps worrying about something that happened, and then the weather, and then a feeling of thing. So that's one thing that I kind of just say, okay, like a cold, it's going to pass. Other times actually like just sitting with it and giving myself love while I'm experiencing it. So that, because I think that the trying to run away from it, the distraction actually is not good. It actually can make you kind of try to compensate and then exhaust yourself because you just don't want to feel it. So sometimes just being with it and nurturing myself while I'm feeling it helps. I just wondered if you had any other suggestions.
Yeah, for sure. So, usually my suggestion with like all of these things is like you have to find what works for you. Like it's obviously I can give some pointers, I can give some things to try, but they're really just things to try. Like that's really all it is. It's not a absolutist answer to these things. So what I encourage people to do is experiment with things, experiment with different ways of like dealing with some of these things, addressing some of them. And once you find something that works for you, then you kind of stick to that. But what we usually find is we find something that works, and it works for a period of time, and then it doesn't work anymore. So I think we also have to learn to be flexible with our approach as well. So we find something that kind of works for now, and that's good, and we take on a particular attitude or a particular like stance or something. It's like, well, that attitude and that stance works now in this instant. Maybe next week it won't work, and we actually have to try something maybe where we're a little bit more active or something. So we might take on that, as you said, like that stance of like giving oneself kindness, or just kind of seeing it as like a weather pattern or something like that. Okay, that might, that's going to work in some instances. Other instances not going to work. Sometimes we might need to take more active things. Other times more active approaches to it, it's not going to work either. So then we have to go back to these other ones. So I think it's more about having a kind of suite of different tools that you can use in any different time for whatever's appropriate. So obviously, and as you said, there are more of those approaches where it is, you know, you just leave the thing be. And so for something like rumination, there's this kind of thing where it feels like it ramps up, like it kind of ramps up. It's basically getting more and more fuel on the thing, and the thing gets bigger and bigger and faster. And so, you know, one of the things there is thinking, I was like, well, how do I like just not put so much fuel on this fire? Like, because usually with rumination, it's sort of like a fire's burning and we keep like throwing sticks on it. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's like, well, how do I maybe just, you know, instead of trying to, I don't know, like beat the fire with your hand kind of thing, it's like, well, how do I just not throw so many sticks on this fire? A bit more of that passive kind of, okay, well, how do I just stop putting in these conditions for this? How can I step back from that and just not react? You know, don't react to it. Don't put more fuel on the fire. And so take that little bit step back. You know, other times it might be something more along the lines of, well, actually, okay, there's this you know, thing that's, you know, gnawing at me, and, you know, I said this like terrible thing to this person, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, then maybe you actually have to take an active thing. If I need to call them and apologize or something. So really it is just, again, being like flexible with your own approach, trying different things out, trying to see what will work in one particular kind of situation. And I think there's also something there, sort of like the last thing I was saying, there's also something there about like your own intuition about these things. It's, you know, in some way you sort of know what you have to do, but a lot of times we don't really listen to ourselves. We just tend to go, oh, well, okay, well, Buddha said to do this, I'll do this. Or it's like, I read this and this person said to do this. Like, I think in some way, a lot of the times, like intuitively, we know what to do. So sometimes I think it's actually like just sort of sitting and listening and going, like what do I really need to do here? Like, what's sort of like crying out that is sort of, again, adding flames to this kind of rumination.
Yeah, I can relate to that, and I think to add here is that when I'm kind and gentle with myself, then the solutions present themselves more, because the self-judgmental mind that there's something wrong with me that doesn't allow for those things to present themselves. So that the gentle kindness is probably the foundation, and then from there to work with it.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you, Ajahn. What about when we see something in society around us which we think is unjust or unfair, and it can get under your skin?
Yep.
And so it's not a sort of overreaction to see something that's violent and you really disagree with it. What methods can we use to try and calm the mind down with seeing what we see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually think if we do see something that is wrong in the world, we actually do need to take action. But we do need to take action in a way where it's like, well, what's within my locus of control to be able to do within this thing? You know, if it's something that's like a long way away from us, there's only limited things that we can do, but there's always something we can do. If we see some kind of injustice that's in the world, that like there's always actually something that we can do. It might be small, but we can do something. I think what happens a lot of the time, we see some of these things and we feel powerless to it. It's like, it's a big thing, I can't do anything about it. So when we take that kind of defeatist stance to an injustice, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and it becomes more overwhelming for us. But if we take some autonomy around that of like, well, I'm just going to do something. It might be small, but I'm going to do something. And I actually think that's, and this is just my personal view, I actually do think that that's meaningful. Because what you're doing, if you're doing something small for the thing, in some way you're kind of like changing the structure of reality. You're changing the causal structure of reality in some way, making it a tiny bit better. These things have knock-on effects. So I think there's a huge thing to be said about, you see an injustice, you do something. You actually do something about it. Again, are you going to fix the thing? Maybe not, but you can do something. Now, so there's that side of it. But then there's the kind of the emotional reaction to it, and the emotional reaction of maybe the feeling of overwhelm, maybe the feeling of indignation, maybe the feeling of that these things aren't fair. And so this is where we have to kind of balance between like the things that I can do with this and the things that I can't do, the things that are within my locus of control to do and the things that are outside my locus of control. As I said, if we take a little bit of action and we try to do something, we actually feel like autonomous. You actually feel better about yourself. But then okay, but yeah, look, there's all these things that are outside my control and I just can't do anything about that. So that balance between like autonomy, sorry, it's getting late. Autonomy, yeah, sorry. I say this so many times every day and it's just late. That and equanimity, having that balance between those two things and knowing where, I do have agency and I can fix this and I can do something for it. And that balance of, I have to be equanimous because these things are outside of my control. I think it's a lot of the time it's like a balance between those two things. So we can sort of reflect, these are the things I can do and these are the things I can't do. If at some other time, these things that I can't do, I will, if I have an opportunity to do something about them later, I will. But like right now, I don't have it. So yeah, so as opposed to just the kind of, okay, it's all way too big, I can't do anything about it, I'll just deal with it in my own mind. I actually think that's one of the worst things you can do, because you really actually you give up at that time and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I actually do think that doing something actually creates the conditions for you to be able to go, yeah, I can fix this injustice a tiny bit, but then I can also know there's so much about it that I can't fix and I can be a lot more equanimous with it. So yeah, I think that's, usually that's the most, I think it's a useful and practical first step. And then, then the meditation stuff, you can work on that a little bit after you've done something, because you don't want to go, oh, cool. Okay, there's all these massive injustices in the world. I'm just going to close my eyes and meditate. Yeah. So it's like, if you do a little bit of things, then you go back to the meditation. So.
Thank you.
Okay, we might have to call it a night. Very good. It's nice when I get a few questions. So yeah, 9 o'clock now. So thanks everybody for coming tonight. So we'll see you next time.